The purpose for this video is to talk about two areas that behave differently in Blackboard than they did in Angel. Those areas are tests and discussion boards. The idea of creating all of your discussion boards at once and then deploying them, or creating all of your tests at once and then deploying them, that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, before we go into Blackboard and I point this stuff out and let you look at it real time, let me do a quick deep down and dirty description of what it is and how it works. When you're designing a course, rearranging a course, reorganizing a course, trying to figure out the best flow for a student, what you may want to do is you may want to go on the left-hand side inside of Blackboard, and you may want to go ahead and create all of your modules. We can consider them folders that run down the left-hand side that organize your course. You may do it that way, and then start filling each module up with the materials they need on a weekly basis or a module basis or whatever. Blackboard gives you another option, particularly when it comes to tests and discussion boards. This option allows you to speed up the process of creating just a little bit when it comes to those two items. There is a repository that allows you to go in and create just the tests all at one time without putting them anywhere. It just holds them over in this special area where all tests reside. And until you deploy them under the right module or chapter or week folder, they just sit there and students can't see them as long as they're in that special place. That's what makes tests different from just standard Dropbox assignments. The other thing that behaves in this way are the discussion forums. If you know you're going to have a lot of discussion forums and you already know what they're going to look like, Blackboard allows you to speed up the process. You can go to one place and create all of your discussion forums at one time. They're not available to students. Students can't see them. They're hidden in a special little place in Blackboard until you decide to deploy them in the right spot. So what does this look like? So let's say you go ahead and create all of your tests and all of your discussion forums. And let's say you have 4 exams and you have 4 discussion forums. Well, that's great, but students can't see them yet because you haven't put them in any particular spot so that they can have access to them. So what you do is you go in Blackboard and you create your modules on the left-hand side, or your chapters, or your weeks, however you organize your classes. And what you do is you pull out that test and you place it under the correct folder in the correct place so that students gain access to it. Then you pull out test 2 because you have the option of selecting it, and you put it in the correct module. This is called deploying. Even though the tests are already created, they reside in a special place where students can't see them. And when you deploy them, students can see them. It's the same with the discussion forums. You can go ahead and create all of your discussion forums and they reside in this special repository. But until you deploy the discussion forum in the correct spot so that students can gain access, they're not going to see the discussion forums. Again, the advantage to understanding this and using it in this way is that a certain amount of synergy can be created if you're sitting down to do all your tests at one time. A certain amount of synergy can be created if you're sitting down and you're just slamming out all of your discussion forums at one time. Because after that, it's just a matter of picking and plucking the right items to go in the right folders so that students gain access and can see them. That is the primary difference between test discussion forums and then other things such as assignments or items that you create. When you create an assignment or when you create an item or other types of things inside Blackboard, you have to create them right there in the spot where you're going to use them. Whereas, again, to reiterate, you can create all of your tests at once, you can create all of your discussion forums at once, and then just pull them into the correct module. The pulling portion into the right module is called deploying. So you create them in one spot, deploy them over here. Okay, so what does that look like? Let's take a look at this. I'm going to go inside a sandbox where I've been doing a good deal of training. Let's start with tests. If you look over on the left-hand side under Tools, where you see Tests, Surveys, and Pools, and I'm going to click on Tests. You can build your tests right here. And you build them one at a time. You can go ahead and type in your questions, create your questions, etc., etc. I'm just going to do a quick true false just to get something in here. Remember, this is not your question text. This is where your question goes. Alrighty, and I'm going to say that it's true, and then I'm going to submit. Okay, so I am done with this test. That's the only question I'm going to have. Okay, and it was test 1. You see this no right here? Deployed. It has not been placed over here so that students can gain access. I can go in and build test 2. Create all my questions that I wish to use. Make sure that everything is in there the way I want it. That's it. I finished with that test. Now I have test 2. But notice it is not deployed. Let me show you how you deploy it. I go to lesson 1. Let's pretend like, well, let me come down. Lesson 3. This is where I want to deploy it. Assessments, test. There's my test 1. It's already created. I simply haven't deployed it so that students have access to it. You get all of your options for your test, the same options that you had in Angel pretty much. You can set due dates, multiple attempts, blah, 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 blah. You set all that. And now test 1 has been deployed. So that means students have access to it. If I go back to the general pool where I keep all of my tests, it now says that test 1 has been deployed and shows you where you deployed it. I'm going to deploy test 2 just so you can see. Yet again, there's my test 2. Answer all of my settings. I have now deployed test 2. It's under lesson 4. And if I want to know exactly where all my tests are stored, which folders I've deployed them so students have access to them, it tells me right here, there's test 2. I have now deployed it in lesson 4. And the discussion board works the same way. You can go to the discussion board area and you can create additional discussion forums. They're not necessarily deployed, and you can't get them into the gradebook without a little bit of work. Let me go to lesson 2. I'm going to go to Tools, Discussion Board. This is where you create. You can create all your forums at one time here. I did not give it a description. I hope it doesn't make me, just because I'm trying to speed this up. There's forum 1. I'm going to create another forum. Now again, this is a holding place. Students cannot see them if they have not been deployed. Forum 2, blah, 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 whatever the forum is. I click Submit. Now I've got Forum 1 and Forum 2. They're not deployed yet. I'm going to go to Lesson 1 and I'm going to deploy Forum 1. There it is. I'm going to select Forum 1. Click Next. Now you get the options associated, the similar options that you had under Angel. And now Forum 1 has been deployed right here. So I have another forum. It's Forum 2. I'm going to put it in Lesson 2. I'll go to Tools, Discussion Board. At this point it's saying, which forum do you want? I'm going to say select from this box. I want to pull Forum 2 in. Now students can see it. They couldn't see it before because I had not deployed it. Now students can see Forum 2. So I hope this was a little bit helpful in helping you to understand how tests and discussion forums can be created, but if you don't deploy them where students can gain access to them, it's possible that they might never be seen. Thanks so much.